The reception given to U.S. President Richard Nixon on the afternoon of May 22, 1972, was chilly because it was the height of the Cold War. The ceremony was held without Soviet President Leonid Brezhnev, and the streets of the capital city were devoid of the people that usually gathered to greet visitors to the Kremlin on such occasions. But it was only through this specific visit that the ice that had been covering U.S.-Soviet ties could be broken. Henry Kissinger, the Secretary of State for Foreign Affairs, participated in the first round of negotiations between the American and Soviet delegations, and during that tour, numerous agreements were reached in a variety of disciplines, including the military. The SALT I agreement about long-range nuclear weapons and intercontinental missiles was the most notable document that was signed. All of this seemed to indicate that a new chapter had begun between the Soviet Union-led Eastern Camp and the American-led Western Camp. But the emerging warmth did not end the Cold War. That fierce war that was taking place in the shadows of its heated battles between the intelligence agencies, which continued until the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991. Due to this war, there were several assassinations and espionage operations that shook the foundations in more than one of the countries on both sides. Bulgaria occupied a unique position in the system of Eastern European nations orbiting the Soviet Union. It supported the Axis powers in World War II, including Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Japan. And after the Soviet soldiers seized power in 1944, the creation of the People's Republic took place in 1946, which until the beginning of the 1990s of the previous century became, one step after another, in the system of communist countries. For the benefit of governments or organizations, they gather and analyze sensitive information. They carry out covert operations, infiltration, and other forms of surveillance to obtain information about prospective threats or to their advantage. Because of the often secretive nature of their employment, it calls for extreme discretion and professionalism. They could work covertly or assume different identities. They need a high level of skill, training, and mental toughness for their work, which can be dangerous. Their practice frequently involves emotional deceit and manipulation. With the support of the Kremlin, the Nazi collaborating administration was overthrown, and Todor Zhivkov, who had started his political career as the General Secretary of the Bulgarian Communist Party, began to climb. 10 years later, in 1954, he was elected President of the Bulgarian Republic, a position he held for 34 years. Until shortly after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the dissolution of the Soviet Union, when he was sacked. He was a close friend of Leonid Brezhnev, the Soviet leader, and his leadership was characterized by steadiness, which contrasted with the monotony of the Soviet Union under Brezhnev. Todor Zhivkov faced opposition from politicians and academics due to the iron grip with which he dominated the nation. Many of them ended their lives in prisons, while others chose to flee to the west. But wherever they went, Bulgarian intelligence tracked them. One of the most famous opponents of Todor Zhivkov's regime, who chose exile, is Georgi Markov. In Bulgaria's capital, Sofia, Marko was born on March 1, 1929. He attended the university in 1946 and enrolled in the Department of Chemistry to continue his studies after earning a baccalaureate degree. He had to spend a lot of time and multiple visits in the hospital receiving treatment for tuberculosis when he was 19. This inspired him to compose books of literature. He put up his scientific study to focus on composing plays, poems, and short tales, which became some of his most significant works and earned him respect and recognition on numerous occasions. His first interaction with Todor Zhivkov's apparatus was with the censors who were banning the production of the plays he was writing because they went against the communist regime's intended strategy. Because he accurately and almost certainly predicted the collapse of the roof of Lenin's metallurgical mill, his book The Roof was outlawed while it was still in publication. The future became less clear in his view. He went to Italy in 1969 to visit his brother who was there. His first intent for traveling was to wait for the consequences of the ban on his theatrical writings, but after the Bulgarian government refused to renew his passport from Italy in 1971, he changed his mind and chose to remain in the West. He relocated to Britain and made London his home. He didn't speak English, but after picking up enough words to get by, he headed to the British Broadcasting Corporation, where he started working in the Bulgarian area in 1972. He was able to work for the American-funded radio station Radio Free Europe, where he could denounce and assault Bulgaria's communist government for interfering with artistic life. The open conflict began when Georgi Markov declared his dissent. As a result, he was expelled from the Bulgarian Writers' Union, sentenced to 6 years and 6 months in prison in his absence, and his books were removed from all library shelves. The communists in charge of Sofia have acknowledged that Markov's access to Western media encouraged opponents of the regime to threaten their control. All of his movements and residences were being tracked by Bulgarian intelligence. She produced a file for him and gave him the Wayward moniker. His drama The Fall Under the Rainbow made its debut in 1974 and was awarded the Edinburgh Prize. Sofia began considering eliminating Markov and silencing him permanently since she knew she would not like the fame he was about to earn. Georgi Markov was the target of 2 failed attempts by Bulgarian intelligence, with assistance from Soviet intelligence. The selection procedure was intended to take place covertly and without leaving a trail of incriminating materials at the crime scene. Markov had no guard, therefore it was easy to approach him and get in touch with him despite the fact that British and Western intelligence were keeping tabs on this Bulgarian dissident's activities. The Bulgarian Secret Service makes the decision to develop a novel method of assassinating adversaries in the state security laboratories. Georgi Markov traveled to the bus stop on September 8, 1978, after crossing London's renowned Waterloo Bridge, which unites the 2 sides of the River Thames. A man struck him at that very moment with an umbrella in his hand, striking him at the level of his leg. He felt a needle prick there. He expressed regret and walked away. That situation took only a few seconds. The fact that this incident occurs frequently on the streets meant that the Bulgarian opposition was unaffected. But when he got to his BBC office, he saw that the spot where the strange man's umbrella had struck him was still swollen, red, and painful. He then developed a high temperature in the evening and was transported to a hospital in Belém, a district of South London. Georgi Markov passed away there 3 days later. The precise cause of death is yet unknown. One of the doctors who examined him recalled that Markov had stated that he believed he had been poisoned, and that the man who had hit him with the umbrella spoke with a foreign accent that was neither British nor English. Because Georgi Markov was not a typical guy, his death was not an organic process. Scotland Yard, the British police, then stepped in and asked that his body be autopsied. A metallic projectile with a spherical shape was found in a muscle of the leg with 1.52 mm in diameter by forensic pathologists. It was discovered during a laboratory examination that it is 90% platinum and 10% iridium, a chemical element and transition metal belonging to the same family as platinum. The presence of 2 holes, each with a diameter of 0.35 mm, was noted by forensic scientists. Additionally, traces of ricin, a deadly toxin, were found in the military lab at the entrance to the 2 specific holes. A honey-like material was also found there, and its purpose was to prevent poisonous substances from leaving. To release the toxin, this material melts the previously unknown mixture at an average temperature of 37 degrees, which is the body temperature of a healthy person. That is what happened when Georgi Markov's body was struck by that specific missile. The autopsy's findings confirmed that the Bulgarian dissident had been poisoned by unidentified means, and even if the doctors had known he had been ricin poisoned, they would not have been able to save him because they lacked the necessary antidote. There is no longer any question that the third effort by the Bulgarian intelligence to kill Markov was successful. An investigation into the murder of this Bulgarian dissident produced what appeared to be conclusive evidence that Bulgarian intelligence had dispatched a team of spies to Western Europe with the aim of eliminating opponents of Todor Zhivkov's communist regime, possibly in coordination with the KGB. When a thorough investigation into the Waterloo Bridge accident was launched, it was discovered that the individuals responsible for Markov's death had been through Paris 10 days prior. Another journalist and Bulgarian dissident, Vladimir Kostov, was also in Paris at the time. Before being hired as his reporter in Paris in 1974, he worked for a number of Bulgarian media sources, particularly Bulgarian television. He requested political asylum in 1977 and was granted it in the same year. Kostov, his wife, and their kids were riding an escalator at a Champs-Élysées metro station on August 26, 1978, when Kostov felt what felt like a wasp sting on his shoulder. Likewise, he claimed that an individual was holding a suitcase and that he could not see their face, appearing to be in a rush walking near him. Soon after, he developed a high fever. He went to the hospital, where a doctor checked him and advised that the cause may have been a wasp bite. The doctor also prescribed him fever-reducing medication. Because of how well he was doing, he almost forgot about the accident at the metro station. But when he read in the newspapers about what had happened to Georgi Markov, a fellow opposition citizen, he remembered what he had been exposed to at the Champs-Élysées metro station and decided to tell the police. British detectives were dispatched to work with French investigators on the Kostov case. The man was closely examined, and a little metallic sphere, similar to the one recovered from Markov's calf muscle, was retrieved from his shoulder, where he claimed to have been stung. The ball was damaged either before or during the injection, according to the laboratory test, which is why only a handful of them were left after the dangerous ingredient ricin seeped out of them. It was proven by what was found in Paris that Vladimir Kostov had been the target of an assassination attempt. This case, often known as the Bulgarian umbrellas case, is still under investigation. Although the umbrellas weren't created in Bulgaria, the American-made umbrellas were favored by the Bulgarian Secret Service. Its head has been altered to include what appears to be an air-powered pistol that fires these balls. No traces of the documents pertaining to the murder of Georgi Markov and the attempted murder of Vladimir Kostov were discovered in the archives of the Bulgarian intelligence services after the fall of the Berlin Wall and the collapse of the Soviet Union, which brought down the communist regime in Bulgaria. All of these papers appear to have been burned once Todor Zhivkov's men recognized their time was up.